Welcome to the Confident Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Anne, mama of two, holistic pregnancy and pediatric sleep consultant, and the founder of Empowered Decisions. In our seasons together, I'm here to help you step into your inner confidence from pregnancy to motherhood. Whether you are preparing to meet your baby or integrating into new mom life, this is a safe space with education and support for your journey. Join me as we raise the vibe of our motherhood collective. Welcome back to the Confident Motherhood Podcast. I'm Anne, your holistic pregnancy and infant and toddler sleep consultant and your podcast host today. Today, we're going to be diving into a topic and an area where women just do not have enough support, and that is our pregnancy mindset. Now, pregnancy mindset has an overarching theme that is our maternal mental health, which is crucial, incredibly important. And when I say we just don't have enough support, it's not that we don't have access to care. We absolutely do, and we have providers. What I mean by this is that our standard routine and care, especially when it comes to our mental health, and actually setting women up to be empowered, educated, informed, to have like a elevated pregnancy experience, to ensure that we're heading into birth and can have a positive, healthy, safe experience with a small risk of trauma, that is lacking. That is undersupported. Now, if you've found me through any socials, you've also likely heard me talk about like quote unquote, taking control of your pregnancy journey. And sometimes I'll get asked like, what do you mean by taking control? So whether it's, building your care team or learning about your rights, there are many factors in which I feel are important when we talk about taking control. But today specifically, we're talking about the major area that is your pregnancy mindset. Now, in this episode, I want to share some recent stats because I feel that it's important for us women to know. And I'll also share my personal connection and story to this topic. And I want to leave you with actual steps, tactical things that you can do and explore to support your maternal mental health, your pregnancy mindset, because all of which is really going to help you step into your inner power. And that then manifests into genuine inner confidence, which you deserve to have as a expecting mom and a mom. So let's kind of kick off with some stats. And this was published in the Maternal Mental Health Leadership Alliance, the HLA, in October of 2024. So we're talking recent stats, which I always think is really helpful because commonly when we see stats, it may be within 5 years or even older. So let's talk about this. 1 in 5 mothers are impacted by mental health conditions. 75% of women impacted by maternal health conditions remain untreated, and this is increasing the risk of long-term negative impacts on mothers, babies, and families. Now, of women who experience anxiety or depression in the postpartum period, if untreated, those symptoms and conditions, those MMH conditions, can last up to 3 years. Now, there was a pie chart here, which I wish I could share with you visually, but essentially it had it broken down that 40% of those symptoms, striking anxiety, depression, right, post having a child, 40% developed following childbirth. 33% developed symptoms during pregnancy, and 27% entered pregnancy with anxiety or depression. So when we hear things like, pregnancy anxiety can be common, and I think the full range is probably like low 20s to these low 30s, like percentage of women that are going to experience things like pregnancy anxiety and depression. That's a big chunk of women, right? And I feel like that is where then we need to have these conversations around seeking support, getting help, and things that we can be doing to make sure that we are increasing our chances of being able to navigate and cope with the pregnancy experience, and of course, motherhood that is to come. So I really hold, like, even having a focus of pregnancy mindset in my coaching practice with women came from my personal experience. So me holding this topic near and dear to my heart is, of course, as a collective, right? As a motherhood collective, it's really important to me. But I was at one of my lowest mental health points in my life when I was pregnant with my second son. Like straight up, I was not okay. Now, again, in standard care, you're going to hear this percentage that, women will experience, or that even insomnia is common. I had a long list of physical pains and struggles and things that I was going through that was not helping. It was not helping my mental health because I felt like I had both of those things going on. And I had never even dealt with anxiety in my life. Now, I don't necessarily think that that's a flex, but since I had never dealt with it before, anxiety, panic attacks, insomnia, I did not feel like I had the tools, the solid tools to cope with it all. And that was a bad place to be. Like, we need the care, we need the insight into what's going on, and we need the tools. There is a lot of letting the system guide our pregnancy experience, essentially kind of like being a number in the system. We got routine checkups, testing, exams, statistics, worries, stresses, overwhelm. And even with a pregnancy where you feel great, I had one of those. My first pregnancy was like standard, like I felt good, glowing, all of the things. Like even all of this, there still isn't a focus. It's not a priority of how are you doing? How is your mental health? What is coming up for you? What support do you need? And you will get way more of this in general being under midwifery care versus OB care. But honestly, OBs don't have time. Like usually you'll get these quick, 10 to 15 minute checkups, especially if you're low risk, right? Kind of everything's tracking along. Those prenatal checkups are more focused on you and baby, not necessarily the mental health aspect. That's why it's lacking. That's why it's important. That's why we're talking about it. And for any of us who have been first time moms, the tricky thing is most of us don't even realize that we're in the system. Like we got on the ride already. And this especially happens in first pregnancies. Like we're just so excited. We're excited. We're along for the ride. But it's not usually until we're disappointed by our own expectations or the lack of support or how the system functions that we then realize that we could have taken control, that we had a say, that we had rights. We could do things differently. We could choose a different path. So this is why taking control of your pregnancy can really play a huge role in elevating your pregnancy experience alongside whatever you may be going through, right? Easier pregnancies, not so easy pregnancies, and allowing you to prepare and have an empowered and an educated birth experience. That's the goal. Now, side note, I wasn't planning on doing this, but side note, I recently created a YouTube channel and I had a close friend who's been on YouTube for some time. And she was like, look, girlfriend, she was like, YouTube, that audience can be vile. Like that comment section, she was like, it's not really like TikTok. It's not like Instagram, like just beware. And I wasn't necessarily worried about it because TikTok can definitely bring the heat sometimes. But I had done a recent like reposting of a video that I previously did on TikTok about like, hey, you can create the birth that you desire. And I, of course, was talking about other things in this short, probably less than 1 minute video. And I got a comment that was like, this is, narcissistic advice and women just need to go with the flow. And, I planned for birth and I ended up having birth trauma. And my first thought was like this poor mom who had to go through birth trauma. She thought that she was heading into birth and she had planned and she had done these things and it went completely left, whatever it is. I don't know what her story is, but it was another example of the standard care and how we think that just doing standard birth preparation can set us up for success. That is to no fault of hers. That is to no fault of our own. I definitely experienced that in my first birth experience. And so this is really about a perspective shift on what it means to be cared for properly, to take control, to educate yourself so that we can do all the things that are increasing your chances of minimizing that birth trauma. So going back to my second pregnancy, really tough mental health space that I was in. It was just all the things that, can push you to beyond what you feel your mental capacity is. And I thought that pregnancy was going to break me. And even though I was being told that some of these things were common, it just didn't feel right. It essentially wasn't good enough for me. And I wanted help. I needed help. I sought out the help. And now we're going to head in, the direction of this episode where I want to start breaking down for you what helped me to cultivate a healthy pregnancy mindset, how I overcame those mental struggles, and share with you that you can still do it. I think even in that pregnancy, I was like, oh my God, I was not confident initially before, making these changes that I could have a positive birth experience because of how terrible that pregnancy was. But I want you to know that they're not exactly one and the same. And even through struggle and pregnancy, you can still create that. Now, I also share this with you because I want you to know that you're not alone. And again, whether it's an easy pregnancy you're having or a hard pregnancy is a vulnerable time. We are open. We are going through what essentially is a death and a rebirth of ourselves in new motherhood or even motherhood again. We are feeling emotions, feelings, there's traumas that are coming up for like so many things can bubble to the surface. That you cannot control. But I'm going to say this slowly. What you then do next is within your control. So let's start talking through some steps. I didn't even number these, so I'm not even sure how many we have here. And also, I want you to know, because I want to highlight all of these different areas. I didn't want to leave anything out, but I also want you to know that I support women in a few different ways. I do one-on-one pregnancy support and birth preparation calls. I have a couple master classes, one which is all about the confident pregnancy method, where I really dive into all of these areas. And I also have, if you're interested in creating an unmedicated birth experience, I have a master class on that, really breaking down the steps to bring that to life. Connect with me on socials, ton of content. So just know that if we don't get to specifically like one of these items where you're like, oh, I'm craving more, just know that there are more. I also have free pregnancy resources and a birth plan template guide. So a lot of different ways to support you based on what your needs are. But let's start diving in. Number one, I need you to get underneath your beliefs. We are going to start digging them up. Now, getting underneath your beliefs essentially has got it going within and asking yourself, how do I feel about pregnancy and birth? Because conscious, subconscious, we all come into the pregnancy experience with these underlying beliefs and fears that sometimes we are aware of what they are and sometimes we are not. So we have to start there, because if you don't start there, you're essentially risking making fear-based decisions in your pregnancy versus self-aligned decisions. So you really want to kind of start off with like, how do I feel about this experience? Do I feel like pregnancy is meant to be easy? It's meant to be hard. Birth is not within my control. Birth is meant to be hard, is meant to, like, you have to start just kind of peeling back that onion. It's a really great place to start. The next place that you can go to is identifying your fears. Now, I've used this in other examples of asking yourself, is this my fear or did I adopt this fear? Because same thing, we watch movies and shows, and we've heard stories of family members and friends that have all gone, been pregnant and given birth. And then here we are in our own journey, and you have built all of those stories, all those beliefs, all those things have brought you to this point. So yes, there are valid fears in pregnancy, but you really have to get down to like, what is my fear? Like, what actually am I concerned about? Because then we can take steps from there to help support, educate you there and help kind of calm and move you away from the stress and the worry into more confidence. But if you don't even know where your fears are, it can leave you in a very clouded place. So we need some help in identifying our fears. Then I want you to get started early. Like, overwhelm and fears can actually start almost as soon as we know we're pregnant, whether that's peeing on a stick or you're making your first, doctor's appointment. We can start thinking about 1,000,001 things. I got a message from a mom on TikTok the other day, and she was 6 weeks pregnant. I'm like, she just found out, and poor thing was in a spiral of fears. So you really don't want to wait until the second or third trimester to then go within and decide how you feel and ask yourself, what do I want for my pregnancy experience? That is also ever changing. It's not a fixed answer that you have to stick with the entire time, but it's a really good idea early on to just start going within and be like, what do I want this to look like? What do I want my care to look like? Because that's my next recommendation is in this list, right, of what I encourage you to do is I want you to choose a provider / build your care team that is supportive. And I know that probably sounds silly. Like, why would I choose a provider care team that's not supportive? We never intentionally choose a team that is not supportive, but sometimes it can be revealed to us in the pregnancy experience that like, oh, my provider is actually not aligned with how I feel about birth, that they're actually not aligned with my birth intentions. Sometimes that's something that just gets revealed where we can start getting ahead of those things in the choices that we're making for our provider as we're building our care team. And that can be really powerful because how you are supported, how your questions are being answered is going to shape your pregnancy experience. This next point could probably have an entire episode all on its own. You got to connect with your partner, and, your person is a big part of how you're feeling and kind of, feeling alone or not so alone on this journey. So you really have to connect with your partner, and hopefully you have a partner that is supportive and open to the journey, because again, pregnancy isn't linear, to be there with you, right? Whether you're both figuring it out together, you're navigating your fears and emotions and belief systems and your partner's fears, emotions, and belief systems, and you're educating together and you're getting to do, let's say appointments, whatever it is, you really have to connect with your partner, because they can be a really crucial support system, a really crucial role that they're playing in your pregnancy. Sometimes can also make it or break it for positive or the negative. So I highly encourage you, and that can take on different shape. That's why I say it could be its own episode, but to truly have a point of focus to be that your connection with your partner throughout this journey can definitely help you to feel less isolated, which can also be more supportive to your pregnancy mindset. Now let's talk about because I can speak English. Let's talk through cultivating practices to help you have a healthy pregnancy mindset. Now, there's a lot of examples here, and I want you to take what resonates and I want you to leave what doesn't, because not everything is for everyone. I will also highlight certain ones that were incredibly supportive to me, but this list expands outside of solely the list of practices that I did myself. Okay, number one, and not everybody likes to hear this, but I want to expand on it a little bit. Meditation. Whether meditation is in the morning, the middle of the day, the evening, it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to go on a little sidebar here to just help expand, just in case there is some immediate resistance to the word meditation. And if you have found me on socials or here, I'm going to assume, based on the algorithm, that that's not the case. But nonetheless, I still want to dive into it, because I used to feel this way about meditation. I used to feel like I don't have time, or there's not a perfect quiet place, or when I sit down, my mind is going crazy. I can't quiet my mind. I'm not doing this right. And I want you to think and just kind of shift the perspective on meditation, that it's just giving yourself time to be with you. That's it. Whether you sit down for 2 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, just sitting, breathing, being in the present, whether you're actually doing something like you're listening to a guided meditation on YouTube, which I love doing, by the way, in addition to just having that quiet, tuned in time, but really even just sitting and focusing on your breath and just letting all the thoughts come and go. Think of them as the tide comes in, the tide comes out. You don't have to attach and then go with every thought and train of thought that comes into your mind. It's just about observing them, kind of that disconnect from the mind and getting into the body. And in those moments, it can really help to regulate your nervous system and just help you to calm, be centered, focus on you, your body, your baby. So just kind of release the pressure and the structure, and meditation has to be perfect. It's really about just tuning in and having that time for yourself. Okay, side rant over. Okay, journaling. Now, I probably could write better with my feet than my hands. I have terrible handwriting, and I don't always love writing because of that, because it's I feel like my handwriting's so sloppy, whatever. But putting pen to paper is actually really mentally powerful. So journaling, it can look a few different ways. You can actually write, which I do encourage, especially if you're doing any affirmations and manifesting, those sorts of things, really powerful to write. But you can also brain dump. And sometimes when my mind is really going crazy and I feel like I just have so much going on in my mind, I'll just brain dump it on the computer. Literally open up a Word document and just start letting it all out, not in fluid sentences, just random, because sometimes I just need to get it out so that I can then process how I'm feeling. So again, there's layers to that. But journaling, getting out your thoughts, all those things are really powerful. Somatic exercises, incredibly amazing. I love somatic exercise. Birth affirmations are incredibly powerful. And sometimes I'll hear from moms birth affirmations didn't work for me. So I will say this, and I do have a free birth affirmation guide that you can get on my website, which is empoweredwithann.com, is the power of birth affirmations isn't just saying these positive things. If you feel like shit inside, if you're feeling a ton of worry and fear and all those things, we have a little bit extra work to do. But birth affirmations is about feeling into the energy of those affirmations. It is not a practice of trying to mind over matter your fears. So yes, you could say, let me think of one off the top of my head. What would a birth affirmation be? My body grew my baby. My body knows exactly how to birth my baby. Powerful affirmation. Some will resonate with that, some won't. But if you're feeling like you're not capable of birth, or maybe there's conversations in your pregnancy regarding cesarean, right? Having a C-section, there may be parts of you that would say that birth affirmation and don't really believe it. So I think too, finding birth affirmations that you do resonate with, that also can come from a place of neutrality. Sometimes we get really attached to the specific words. So really it's just about the energy. When you feel into those energies, that's what's energetically shifting, not just saying nice things, because that's not going to get you there. Okay, so birth affirmations, daily movement, again, even if it's just walking. And I had such a physical struggle in my second pregnancy. I didn't have a ton of movement. So I had to find different ways of movement since I wasn't able, I was even put on rest in the first trimester because I was struggling with mentally, like, oh, I'm not doing my workouts like I did before. And I felt like a lazy piece of SHIT, all these different things. But I want you to, again, expand your, perception of what potentially movement could be, which physically could just be standing up and swaying or doing a dance or just really anything that's just like getting that energy moving in your body. Energy can get stuck in our body. It can get kind of trapped there and we got to move it. We got to get it out. Okay, then hypnobirthing. I cannot say enough positive things. Actually, I'll do another episode specifically diving into hypnobirthing. I highly recommend it. I actually took a course and it was really beautiful. And I think that I initially had the intention of practicing hypnobirthing for my unmedicated birth that I was planning a second time around. But actually, it was something that was incredibly supportive to me and my mental health during pregnancy. So I highly recommend you check that out. Then I would say prayer, energy work, breath work. Pregnancy can be an experience where even like you feel out of breath, right? You're gaining weight. Your baby is smushing all your organs and putting pressure on areas. And even just walking around can make us feel out of breath, even as we get later in our pregnancy. So doing some breath work, again, can really help to regulate your nervous system. But again, with this entire list, make it your own. Finding your own practices that you feel like help you center and help you to tune in is what the power is. It's not about, what exactly worked for me, work for you or somebody else. It's just about going within to be like, okay, how am I going to care for my pregnancy mindset and my overall mental health? Okay, now we have, I don't know, however many, but 3, 4, 5 more things to talk about. So next, I really need you, this kind of tie back to journaling, but I really need you to write your freaking questions down. We have so many questions that come up during pregnancy. And what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And some of it is rooted in fears and worries. And some of it is actual questions. Write it down. I don't care if you have 15 minutes with that OB or you got 30, 45 an hour with your midwife. I want you heading into each prenatal visit with your questions to be answered, because every time you get those questions answered, it's going to help you feel more calm and confident. It's going to help prevent that crazy spiral, those trains of thoughts that we can have. So really write it down. I don't care if it's in notes on your phone or you actually have it in a little notepad that you're bringing with you. Get your questions answered. Okay, this next one I really love because it's super easy and I feel like it just always kind of shifting me back daily to where I need my focus to be. Set reminders in your phone. Now, you actually can do this with alarms on your phone, which I find a little bit annoying. I use an app called Nudge, and essentially I have one that reminds me daily, usually in the afternoon, which is the craziest time with kids usually. It just says, I am safe, take a breath. And I'll set it. I'll have 5 or 6 that I have set in my phone. And basically every time I go to my phone, usually it's been a couple hours or whatever, and I now have the next notification that's reminding me. You can set this up with birth affirmations. You can set this up with anything that you need, but it's just these reminders that help you to refocus. Again, get out of the mind, into the body, center, take a breath, and then move on. Those are those mindful moments. Like this entire conversation could be put into the category of mindfulness, right? You're caring for self. This is true self-love in your pregnancy. So if you need reminders to tell yourself, then you get the reminders to tell yourself. Okay, create and use your birth plan. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one because I have an entire episode about this topic, but really, there's a lot of misunderstandings around what a birth plan is, how to use it. You'll hear a lot of you don't need to create a birth plan. You can't plan for birth. This is really about, it's you. Like creating a birth plan is not for your team. It's not for somebody else. It's about your journey. It's about you educating yourself along the way, you finding what you desire for your birth, you being provided with information, you seeking information, kind of like this evolution in this journey. In my prior work world, we would have WIPs, WIPs, which were work in progresses. And I think about birth plans in that way. This is something that's a work in progress. Start it early, use it throughout your pregnancy. Again, As you're more educated and informed and you're making self-aligned decisions versus fear-based decisions, it again helps to naturally shift you into more calm and confidence, which is supportive to your pregnancy mindset. Okay, this last one, I just wrote down flexibility and fluidity. So this for me is where I feel where go with the flow meets owning and taking inspired action, because you'll hear that a lot. Going back to the YouTube example where this didn't work for me. Women just need to go with the flow. Going with the flow can be very dangerous if I'm being completely honest in how I feel about it. Going with the flow is putting the control in the system and your care team, and doesn't always mean that it's aligned for you. Oftentimes there's lots of assumptions that we head into birth with and our pregnancy experience, assuming things are going to happen. And then if or when that doesn't happen, we can be really disappointed. This is where trauma can come in. So I think that it's finding that balance of, we do want to have a fluid and a flexible mindset and mentality, but we can do that alongside taking inspired action of what we want, going within, cultivating these practices, and making sure that we are educated and empowered along the way. Mama, I truly care about your pregnancy mindset so much. And even though we're talking about practices and things that you can be doing, if you are struggling with your mindset, with your mental health pre, during, whether you're listening to this after pregnancy, and you feel like something is off, this isn't enough, please seek professional support. Please talk with your provider, somebody that you know and love that can help get you the help that you need. Because like we talked about, 75% of women impacted by maternal health conditions remain untreated. It's not good enough. So please seek the support if you feel like this is outside of just doing, tips and tactical things to support your mindset. You deserve to have an elevated pregnancy experience. You deserve all of the support. And I really hope that this episode was insightful and helpful. And there were some recommendations shared that you did resonate with and that you want to explore, because it should be your journey. And I'm also here for you. Send me an email, send me a DM, comment. I just want you to feel the energy and the power of all the women pregnant with you right now, which is a birth affirmation, by the way. Because again, pregnancy can feel isolating. Doesn't matter. Easy pregnancy, not so easy pregnancy. It's a unique journey and we're going through something new, and it can bring up a lot of fear of the unknown. So really tap into that collective energy that all the women pregnant with you right now, there is power in that. And I'm sending you so much love. And until the next episode, lots of love. Whether you're a tired mom struggling with your little one's sleep, or an expecting mom looking for empowerment and advocacy as you prepare for birth, I'm here to show up for you with proven strategies and education to elevate your journey. You deserve to feel heard and given the tools to have success. Mama, you do not have to navigate your pregnancy or sleep struggles alone. Head over to empoweredwithann.com to discover how we can support you. Confidence, empowerment, and peace are just a click away.